Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It's Milton and I, Starrapter, here for Outer Rim transmission number 45. We may be joined by Ben, but we are having, of course, as most of the time, some technical difficulties with Skype. So, barring that in mind, we're going to get the show started because we have a lot to go over today. We have the finale of the Book of Boba Fett and a ton of streaming news, including the first premiere date for Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus, plus a bunch of High Republic announcements on top of that, as well as some Ahsoka news too that came in on the 9th hour on Friday before we were recording. So we're gonna just dive right into our week in Star Wars. I had to dig this one up because I kind of was like, oh my gosh, I don't have anything to talk about. But I did get this a while back for Christmas, and I think it's pretty cool. So this is the Star Wars Archives book. Now, this book is one of those kind of coffee style books because you don't want to be lugging this thing around. This thing is
Right.
freaking massive, and it used to be double the size as far as like the width, and it condensed it down to a more digestible kind of like thing. But it is so neat when I tell you, Milton, because it's got like actual transcripts of dialogue, like photographs of the dialogue and like manuscripts and photos I haven't even ever seen before. And it tells you like the entire history of like Star Wars, George Lucas, how he got it in his mindset, and all this kind of really cool things. Now, I
Right.
know you like a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. Have you ever heard of the Star Wars Archives or maybe have looked into it
Mm.
or anything like that?
I've heard reference of it. I mean, I've never obviously read them like you have in that sense, but you're right. I do like the behind the scenes stuff, and actually, that kind of reminds me of a documentary I still happen to stumble upon throughout my Star Wars experience, just because I love it. Is the History Channel Star Wars Legacy thing that they did? It was really awesome because again, that's a lot of the archive stuff that they pull. But even like looking at all the documentaries, I feel like the reference book that you have, they probably pull from a lot of that because it's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
like that history of like how he made the film, what was he
Mm-hmm.
thinking,
Mm-hmm.
what influences that had on George Lucas as a young guy from Modesto, California.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I don't have the book, but I think that's something I probably should invest in. Obviously, that should be part of my Star Wars collection, in no doubt.
Yeah, they have an edition for the prequels as well. This just goes through the first three original trilogy movies.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into this. I gotta set myself like a goal, like maybe read 5 pages a week because it has been since like December since I've really peeked into this one. But it's definitely worth the read. Now, maybe this will be our week in Star Wars for this week. But you did send us some pictures earlier on
Yes,
in
I
our,
did.
our messenger chat, and you want to talk about those? Because there are some pretty cool things that were in those pictures.
Yeah, so like you guys know, I love to go looking for vintage video games, toys, or whatever. And that's a town, Greencastle, Pennsylvania, that's near me. It's about 20 minutes from my house. They have every month, first Sunday of the month, they do like a little like showcase toy collectible. And there's maybe like 50, 60 vendors that show up at this thing. It's really dope. And as I'm at the show, I'm seeing Funko Pops, I'm seeing Star Wars comics. So one of the comics I took a picture of was Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
Oh
It was an
yeah.
original edition. It was wrapped. I think the price might have been a couple $100. I wasn't trying to buy it. I mean, it was awesome, but there's no way I would have afforded it. But I took a picture, sent that to Chris and Ben. Another couple things I saw Star Wars related was a whole bunch of Legos. They had a lot of Lego sets there at this convention. I'm talking about not the little like kid ones. I mean, I'm talking about the massive like 1,000 pieces. And I sent Chris and Ben a couple shots of some of the ships that were built. And again, those are hundreds of dollars that they want to charge for this. But there's a lot of it's like the original pieces that they bought like back in the early 2000s or mid 2000s or it's even late 90s. So that type of thing was cool to see. I love going to this particular show that's once a month, and I always try to send pictures to Ben and Chris when I stumble upon these things.
Yeah, we have Chris Forsyth. Thanks for joining the chat. He's one of our loyal watchers and listeners. He's asking, is that anywhere close to Philly?
No, it's probably like 3 hours away from Philly, and it's like 20 minutes from my house, and I'm like 2.5 hours from Philadelphia.
Ah, okay,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, so that
but
would be
but
quite a
but
hike
what
for
they
me.
do, so it's sponsored by this toy shop that's near me. It's called Kryptonite Toys, and they do a lot of traveling shows. So they'll
Oh.
travel to different conventions. They'll try to link up with different vendors to come to their like sponsored event closer to my area. Yeah.
And one of the things I really liked that I pointed this out, I was like, oh, they have the Venator Lego Star Destroyer. I'm like,
Yes.
I didn't even know that thing existed.
Right. Yeah. So it's really cool, man. Like I go to this at least once a month, maybe every other month. It's cool, like especially like if I'm in a mood for like a Funko. So right now I'm been collecting some like rappers. I think I have like 50 Cent, or no, I have Notorious B.I.G., Tupac. I think I collected the Mighty Ducks. I'm working on getting that whole like District 5 Mighty Ducks team. So that like this is the place to go. I actually almost bought non-Star Wars related. Almost bought a Mega Man statue that was about this big. Literally almost
Oh,
bought it from my office. And there is a Darth Vader that's grown man size at this convention that I always never buy, but it's so tempting to get. So
how big is it? Would you say it's like
it's
a
like
12
it's like
inch?
6 foot.
Oh, it's a
It's
full
yeah, it's a grown
Vader.
man size Darth Vader that's like
Oh
it's a
my
model. Yeah,
gosh.
yeah, it's crazy. Like it's cool though, because like I said, it's all these different vendors, all of them from the tri-state area. So
hmm
we have people from Jersey that jump into the sponsorship, Philadelphia, Maryland. There's a couple of Ohio people that come over. It's a cool place where these vendors like link up throughout the year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
just love going to these places that have so much cool memorabilia and old school figures because a lot of the
yeah,
times I'm like, I completely forgot this figure exists. It's just a
yeah.
lot of fun. For me, I don't really collect anymore just because, as you see around me, there's not really much place to put anything
Right.
else.
And here's the thing, Chris. There are a lot of, and I need to send you guys pictures next time I go. There are a lot of the Power of the Force collection that's there.
Oh,
Remember those? And then
that's
obviously the Phantom Menace collection when they came out. So yeah, I actually almost bought a Luke Skywalker from the Power of the Force collection. Like trust me, there's times where I just need to just pull the trigger.
Dude,
But
yeah, those are what I am most nostalgic for. Those Power of the Force, the Vader
dude,
mask in the
it's
background.
awesome.
It's just like, oh man, one of these days I'm
Yeah,
gonna pull out my big. I have like three big clear bins full of Star Wars figures that
yeah.
my mother knows not to ever get rid of because
Right,
I
right,
still
right.
have everything. Believe it or not, you always hear the horror stories of the
Oh
people
yeah, it's crazy.
leaving,
It's
and
crazy.
then
My
they come
my
back
mom.
and their mom sells everything. It's like, nah.
Yeah, it's funny because like my brother's listening right now. He's watching, and he knows like our mother would sell our Nintendo 64 if she could, but we like refuse not to let her do that. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
stuff like that where it's like I'll take it, or like I'll have my brother hold it or something if he needs to, just because we know our mother. And right now we're in the process of trying to collect some old video games for like our system. So that's why I go to these places too.
Yeah, yeah. So there you have it. Let us know in the comment section down below. Do you guys have any local little conventions that sell all the stuff that we love and care about, even as grown men? Let us know in the comment section down below.
Right.
If we're getting into the show today, I want to send a shout out to everybody watching live. You can always watch us live on YouTube at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here on youtube.com/Starrapter. And you can always listen to us after the fact on your drive to work, on your workout at the gym, over on Spotify, on any of the streaming platforms or downloadable sites. And you can just search up Outer Rim Transmission. You'll find us there. And if we aren't where you occasionally download things, let us know and we'll try to fix that. So, getting into it, our headline, of course, and it's funny because this would normally be the biggest headline, but there's almost something even bigger than that, and that is the book of Boba Fett we're going to be talking about first on tonight's show. We're going to talk about spoiler free, of course, first right off the bat. And I'm going to throw this to Milton first, your initial impressions, because I'm going to
Mhm.
pull Ben in. It looks like he is ready to come in here finally, so you can start us off.
Right. Yeah, so I was able to watch this episode today, so it's still fairly fresh in my head. Um, Initial thoughts, and then we'll get into the spoilers in a minute. My initial thoughts were it was just a solid episode. It was a solid finale. I love the visual effects. I would say the visual effects stood out for me, especially the Rancor. That was pretty cool. It looked very well done. It didn't look very much it didn't look like a CGI character, honestly. It was very much reminded me of like a Godzilla type a lot of times. Like a lot of the shots were like Godzilla, especially towards the end when he was fighting the Mando. But yeah, I love the visual effects. I love the music. I thought The plot was a little up and down. However, I think I know what they were trying to do. And obviously they did set us up for a season 2 from my impression. So it was a solid episode. It was a good finale. It wasn't a great finale. I will say this was one of the better episodes when it comes to Robert Rodriguez's directing, since he's been a part of this show a lot. So yeah, those are my initial thoughts.
Yeah, there's that. I think that's kind of echoes for me the most of my thoughts. I agree with you. The Rancor looked awesome. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about him tonight, but it did kind of wrap up everything that was
Yeah.
set up in the first episode, right? It came through at the end where it really pulled through for me, and it ended up being something that was satisfying to a certain
Mhm.
degree. Yes, was
Yeah.
it perfect? No, but what it did well is it showed us finally like the capabilities of Boba Fett. He, when he has to fight, he will fight at this point. And it could have left us off, I think, with a little bit more of a teaser. I think
Right.
it's thing of Cobb Vanth at the end was a little bit of a given. So I was like, okay. But yeah, and I'm already realizing I said spoiler free and I'm already spoiling crap. So there you go. But I'm gonna throw it over to Ben who joins us. How's it going, man?
Good, good. Apparently my Skype had to update, so it wouldn't let me sign out. So I had to uninstall it and reinstall it. So now I'm here.
And we're here all on PCs this time too. So there we go. We pulled it
Yep.
off in the middle of recording and being live. We somehow managed to do it. So what were your
Hey,
thoughts on I was gonna say Mando. I keep confusing it. Book of Boba
Yeah,
Fett
I mean,
finale. What were your initial impressions?
yeah. I was listening to you guys while I was doing this. I agree with some of your points. To me, I thought the finale was weak. I thought it was fine, but I thought it was weak and had some problems overall for the overall series. We'll get into that next week for our series review, so stay tuned for that, anybody listening. And for this episode specifically, I think it was fine, which I feel like we've came out a lot of episodes of this show going, it's fine. And I think this is another one. Like, sure, there was some action that was nice. The Rancor was nice. Of course, the action between Boba finally jumping into things was nice. Between him and Mando, of course, seeing Grogu, all of those sorts of things are great. But there were just some issues I think, with Boba's character in particular, and also I just thought it was fine overall. And then how they handled Cad Bane was shaky in my opinion, because I think his character should have been set up early on in the season, because for the general audience, it's like, why is this guy even a villain? Why is he menacing or anything? Like what's the point? Like, to me, if you don't know Cad Bane and you just watch that, you're just like, okay, what's the point? Like, why is he significant to Boba? Like, sure, he says that one line, but other than that, I just think they should have set him up as the Pike's bouncer from the beginning, from like episode 1 or 2, and gone from that direction. So yeah, overall I thought it was fine, but we'll get into it.
Yeah, I this episode felt like the last stand at the Alamo for me. Like this entire episode, I liked how we actually got to see a war. I thought it was interesting how they decided to fight in the city to like help the people and like have the people show like how heroic Boba Fett can be and how he's for the people and all sort of thing. I loved the build up. I thought it was great how they're like, oh, we're going to station these people over here. We got Chrysanthemum for whatever reason in the Trandoshan era. It's like, that's never going to end well. We know the history between those two warring species. And then it's like those poor Gamorreans, man, as I was watching them get like thrown off. And we're going to just go into spoilers at this point. There's no point in beating around the bush.
Yeah, let's see. Let's get into this, because let me start this one, okay? So like I said, I love the visual effects of this episode. It was probably one of the best visual effects of this season, especially with the Rancor. Like, I don't know anyone that's been complaining about that Rancor. I was very surprised how they made it move very smooth and very fluid. I was very surprised by that. I have to agree with Ben about with Cad Bane.
Mm-hmm.
It was too late, and I don't think they. And Chris, I watched your videos this week that you put out, and for those listening and watching us, Chris's little short videos he puts out about each episode are amazing. Like, go check them out. They get great traffic, and he does a really good job at breaking down that particular subsection of each particular episode. But you talked about Cad Bane, quote unquote, dying. I don't think he's dead.
No.
But like if they do kill him, that's a waste. Like, why would you bring in a character like that and just kill him off? I don't think he's dead. I think he's alive. But we should have gotten more of him. I think if we would have got him in episode 3 moving forward, then I think that scene would have had more impact. I think Boba's confrontation with Cad Bane would have been more impactful, especially the dialogue, because they have a history. They clearly, and they did a really good job explaining that. But I think more episodes would have fleshed it out more and gave it more purpose.
Yeah, I do like that entire conversation and the way it was resolved with, you have Cad Bane that knows every style, every move that Boba Fett's going to pull on him. We know that Cad Bane's the better sharpshooter, the better gunslinger, if you will. But what Cad Bane doesn't know is the skills as a warrior that he learned from the Tusken Raiders. And it kind of reminded me a lot of that duel between Obi-Wan and Maul, where it's like you have Maul that spent Obi-Wan spent all these years replaying in his mind the move that killed his master Qui-Gon. And so he was able to switch his stance to be able to negate that same move he had seen coming. It was kind of the same thing with Boba Fett, where he's like, yeah, I'm not out of the fight yet. And he was able to take him out. So I think for a character moment, seeing that, again, that history coming back to play, and also finding out the revelation that it wasn't the Nikto speeder gang that actually killed the Tusken Raiders. So with that victory over Cad Bane and the Pikes, you get that kind of resolution and sort of that vengeance against these people for his, avenging his Tusken Raider people. So I liked it from that perspective. But again, yeah, like Milton was saying about the video I made earlier, it seems like, and what Ben was saying, it seems like he should have been in this a little bit more, right? Because I'm looking at people like my mother, or Ben, I know you had said something about your grandmother was asking about who's this character. Like a lot of the general casual audience, even my girlfriend, were like, hey, this guy looks really cool. Like, what's his deal? And then he's dead the next episode. It's like, huh? Like, that seems like, again, at least maybe introduce him in episode 2 or 3 if they were going to kill him ultimately. But like this far into the show, it just seems a little bit strange. And now the fact that we have Cobb Vanth, we see how he's getting resurrected. We're seeing how Ming-Na Wen's character, Fennec Shan, getting resurrected. Like, it just seems like, okay, well, he's also a Duros. He's an alien species. We don't know if he has, like, 2 hearts or something like that. I haven't looked that far into it. But, like, it's a possibility.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Here's the thing with all that, too. I just think when it comes to that, well, for side note, I think the post-credit scene was hot trash. I can just say that.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was not needed. Like
no, but if you, we'll get into that later. But yeah, that was trash. But now when it comes to like the Cad Bane stuff, I just think he should have been established more in live action for the people that haven't seen it, because you could have put any CW villain of the week in that spot, and it would have the same effect. Like you could have just had a Pike leader go, we were the ones that killed the Tuskens, not
Ben.
Not,
speaking of CW, because that reminded me, because how many times has characters in the CW Arrowverse have like died and come back like 2 seasons later?
Well, yes, in CW and in Star Wars, like. Don't give me. I was talking to one of my good friends about it. Nothing against him, and nothing against anybody that thinks Cad's dead. But you can't give me, oh, he's dead. But then we have Darth Maul chopped in half. We have the Emperor. We have the Emperor exploded in a Death Star, totally blown to pieces, and he was back to life, looking pretty good in Episode 9.
Oh no, you were getting one. And Leia got blown up, tossed in outer space, was freezing, and pushed herself back to the ship and lived.
Yeah, so an alien getting stabbed in the side of his chest and then his chest plate blinking and stuff, that's probably calling Toto to come and pick him up. So like I just think it was really shaky. You could have put in any character in there and it would have had the exact same effect. And then I just think overall, again, like I said before, I'm not trying to sound harsh on this. Like I said, the series, I think the finale was fine, but I just think they had a lot of missteps, and I 100% solidified myself. I'm not a fan of Rodriguez's directing style at this point, and I just think when it comes to Cad, like I feel like it was a waste. Like you're wasting basically you're wasting another legacy character. In my opinion, you're wasting another legacy type character just to kill him off to get Boba to a point. And the best part is the best part I loved about this. Like this is not to sound snarky or anything about Boba's character arc or anything, but even Cad Bane is kind of like us in the audience. Boba, what's your angle here? Like, what are we doing here, Boba? Are you a crime lord? Are you, and then he even says when he's celebrating at the end, are we even cut out for this? Like, or whatever he says to Fennec. So what is his angle? And, Cat had a point there.
I think that basically has, and like you said, we're going to be talking about the series as a whole next week, looking at good, the bad, and all the episodes that we liked and didn't like. But that's kind of like on a small scale, what you're explaining with Cad Bane. It's like, what was Boba's angle? It's kind of like, yeah, that's what we're all thinking still. I feel like that's my feelings on the show after this episode. It's like, what was his angle to actually, because that's one of my negatives about this episode. He's like, what is his angle about getting this position to be in charge? Like he says, oh, the spice. Well, show us the spice. Like, show us why the spice is such a bad thing, because all we hear about it, oh, it's bad. Yeah, okay, it's like maybe space cocaine in Star Wars or something, but it's like, why is that a bad thing? Show us the evidence of like a character using it and abusing it and gunfights happening, killing innocents. Like, we didn't really see any innocents getting killed or anything.
Yeah, well, that, and then my thing as well, when it comes to speaking of like innocent people, like we really never got a pure connection of Boba. Like, why does Boba care about the people of Mos Espa, who definitely don't seem to care about Tusken Raiders? Like, if anyone he should have been staying with, it should have been the Tuskens. Like, why commit yourself to the Mos Espa people when, you lived with the Tuskens all these years? You cared about the Tuskens. So like, I just think there was a lot of like missteps with Boba's character in this episode specifically. Like even we mentioned it in the intro of the episode, like, them staying in the city to fight and everything. And I thought that's such a big misstep, because like, why wouldn't you just tell everybody, hey, let's go back to this big fortress castle we basically have in Jabba's palace and stake out there? Like we had those type of things that to me made Boba seem less smart, I guess. I feel like this series, like I said, we're not doing a series review, but even this episode, I feel like this episode made Boba continue to make boneheaded choices. Like, even we all love the Rancor and everything, but here's my question, like really to think about, and I didn't even think about it until just this morning. My best friend pointed out to me and him were talking about it. Like, when Boba left to go get the Rancor is presumably at the palace. Why don't you just get the Slave One and bring that back and blast that droid all to pieces?
Here's the thing. I was thinking about that too, but I think it would cause like maybe and this is kind of irrelevant, but like too much collateral damage, because like the explosions and all.
God, dude, they have Godzilla.
But the Rancor ran through the freaking building.
Like that's why I told you, like, it looked like a lot of the shots looked like a Godzilla film when he was climbing up the little tower. Again, it looked great. But he's ripping off. Kong. Yeah, King Kong, Godzilla. He's ripping off pillars and stuff, and it's like you're still doing. It's kind of like the whole like Avengers thing, blowing up the city and leaving the people with the damage and all that stuff like that, or even like with the MCU crap. But like, I don't know. I just felt like the purpose of what Boba was trying to do, because I questioned at the end. I'm thinking, well, what's he going to do now? Like what's the now new A plot leading into season 2? Because that's how most shows. Go ahead.
That's the issue I had, right? Is they misused the post-credit scene, because they should have had a scene that like teased a conflict to come, or another. Let's say the Black Sun are out there or something, like who's gonna come next, or the Hutts. I mean, they already showed the twins, but where's the resolution there? Oh, we're not coming because we were scared of the Pikes. Since why are the Hutts scared of the Pikes? The Hutts have never cared about the Pikes. The Hutts are way higher. Like, if you're looking at like a tier system, it's like you have like the Pikes at the lower end of the barrel, then it's like the Black Sun, the Hutts, and then Crimson Dawn's in there somewhere. So I don't know why the heck the Hutts were that scared of the Pikes to begin with to pull out.
Yeah, I mean, you have that, and like you said, you mentioned like even the misuse of the post-credit scene. Like, okay, if you want to do the back to tank, like we're all big on basically Boba being the nice guy at this point. I mean, like that's what we got for the first 6 episodes anyway. So like my thing is, why don't you have Boba be the nice guy again and give Cad Bane a second chance and have that be Cad Bane in the back to tank or something? Like, I don't know. I just think there was a lot of missteps. And then like with the post-credit scene, forget like I said, I think the Cobb Vanth thing was totally irrelevant. And then to have more of the modding stuff teased, I just rolled my eyes at it. I'm like, I don't need that.
That was kind of.
I don't understand what you have to get modded for if you got shot in the shoulder.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm like, what? You gonna turn him into a cyborg? Like, you're ruining that character. He don't need that. Like, he doesn't need all that extra stuff. Yeah, he doesn't need that. And there's
a great picture out there. I sent it to my buddy Chad of somebody put up a thing called RoboCop, and it's literally RoboCop with Cobb Vanth's head on it.
That's great.
Yeah. To me, like, again, like I said, the finale wasn't trash. There were a lot of good things about it. And there were some questionable things about it. Like, it's the fact that like most finales and most shows they conclude their story.
Yep.
Then they tease us for something for next season or a new plot B or plot A or whatever. All you needed to do was whenever they showed that shot of the groups talking at the end about the melon, just pan out the camera of a figure who's standing in the far distance with the camera watching them talk.
Yeah.
And it show it from their POV.
Yeah.
And be like, wait, who's watching them? Like, is there something?
Yeah.
Well, Milton, I thought that's what was going to happen because, when it was focused on Boba and Fennec, it kind of zoomed out. It wasn't really up close on him. I was like, ooh, are we about to pan to, like, I don't know, a Crimson Dawn spy or, like, somebody, like, spying or somebody?
Or could have been Kira from the background saying, okay, this is what I got to deal with coming up. Like, and I know, Chris, you're a big Kira fan and you want her in the show. Like, it's, again, she would have been a perfect villain for season 2, knowing that the Pikes... the whole, like, tying him with Crimson Dawn maybe or Red Sun or whomever, like, that could have been fire because she's in the comics currently, correct?
Yeah.
Kira?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like, she's around this timeline. So that'd been so dope.
Well, or even the facts with, speaking of, like, Kira and, like, the criminal element to it. Okay, the ending, you have Fennec going and, like, executing the leaders of the Pikes, basically.
I thought that was a waste.
That was... Again, why, okay, Fennec is badass. Like, I love Fennec, everything, etc. But why don't you have Boba doing that? Like, I don't get it. Like to me,
I was at least waiting for a confrontation. I want him to talk to him and say, "This is what you deserve." Like the typical Boba.
And then him walk out, or something, and Fennec takes care of him. Like, just something. I just think they powered down his character in this series, and it's a shame.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. That scene in particular in Mos Eisley and that little outpost there with the Pikes, I actually got the thought of, oh my gosh, what happens if this isn't Fennec? Because it was almost like a thriller, like a horror movie sequence. Because you just start seeing people getting off and you don't know who it is. I thought it was going to be some like death stick or some kind of assassin from Crimson Dawn because like they can't let anybody like say anything about like spill their guts about anything about them existing. So I thought it was going to be an assassin.
Your idea right there
take them out.
Would have been a perfect segue for season 2.
Yeah.
Your idea because again you could have said, wait, who if it's not Boba, if it's not Fennec or Mando, who's taking him out? And you just have somebody just like walk across the screen like in black. You don't see him. You're like, well, who did that? Who executed this group of people?
Well, the funny thing that you say that, Milton and Chris. So my best friend I always talk about, we watched the Star Wars shows together when they come out. He brought that up. Like before we knew it was Fennec, he said, oh my gosh, is this going to be like Kira and her gang taking out these people? And I was like, I don't know, is it? And then like, it wasn't. And, because that's what this show's been missing is that like kind of hook to hook you into the next thing. And like, that's the biggest weakness. Like, of course we're not doing the show review, but that's the biggest weakness as a whole is the hook. Like last week for episode 6 and even episode 5, we got hooks with Mando and, it just hooked. I think it really hooked you really well because you didn't know, how Mando was going to team up with Boba, that sort of thing. That's what we're missing with this. But like, overall, I think they tried to make the storybook ending, I guess you would say, like have a perfect kind of a wrap to the story too well, where there's no cliffhanger. And I think you still need a little bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. Uh, well, I'll talk a little bit about the good. I
Yeah, let's
did
say
like
we can hop back on the positives.
I did like how say what you will about that counselor assistant major domo guy. I actually kind of liked him in this episode. He
Yeah.
had some
Wait,
funny things like
did he
when
live? I don't remember. Did he
he
live?
lived. Yeah, he
Jeez.
survived.
All
But
right.
but I like the whole sequence when like Boba Fett sends him out there to like read
Yeah, that was
the
pretty
terms of
cool.
surrender, and then as he's reading it, it dawns on him like, oh crap, this isn't a surrender notice. and, then,
Yeah.
and then it's just like, but he's like, that's the bloodthirsty Boba Fett that I've kind of wanted to see. He's like, he's no nonsense. Like he's like, no, I'm not getting anything from you guys. You're gonna
Yeah.
have to get off of here. And I liked how he kind of put his foot down and prevented that from happening. And then that one moment where they both fly out was so awesome. Him and Boba
Well,
Fett flying out with their jetpacks. That was one of the cheering
Yeah,
moments.
yeah,
That and the
that was
Rancor
tight.
moment. I was like, dude, and he's firing his knee rockets out, like shooting people at the same.
but the score for his theme song specifically, that whatever that is, like his theme song when it plays, he's getting into action. So like I loved seeing Boba hop into action in that sequence. And just him and Mando teaming up, it was just such a cool team up because it's like the dream team at this point. And I really really enjoyed their just how they shot it all, how like you said, seeing Boba use his knee rockets, fly out, like all that stuff. It just we had those type of moments, and like I was just sitting here thinking to myself, this is what we wanted all season. So like I really enjoyed that, and I'm glad they let him spring into action in this episode.
Yeah, and it's always that conception of like, oh, what's the difference between Mando and the book and Boba Fett? Like, we're gonna come out this Mandalorian show, but we've had this established bounty hunter named Boba Fett. Are people gonna be confused? And now we're at the point where we're in like the third season of this Mandoverse, and we have Boba Fett literally in the same frame as Mando, just like completely doing their own kind of handiwork with their gadgets, flamethrowers, and all going in. So what I liked about the episode is I actually kind of enjoyed the pacing. Now, at certain points, yeah, they could have edited down some things of
Yeah.
like Mando running away from the Scorpius droid or whatever it's called. But I liked the hooks that the episode itself had with the combat. There was always somebody in peril and somebody being saved. Like at first they're getting outgunned, and then the people of Freetown come by. And then at one point, Grogu shows up, and then at one point, a Rancor shows up, and then so they had like constant like one ups on themselves to like keep the progress going, and it really gave me that sort of like Rogue One feel of like in the trenches, especially when they're being outnumbered and those big ass machines are walking through. That to me, I really enjoyed. So did you guys also kind of enjoy and were entertained by some of those sequences?
Yeah, I mean, I loved whenever Mando put out the dark saber. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fire. Like legit, because even him like, and actually, I liked how he referenced their weapon types. He said like their kinetic energy, or was it their kinetic energy versus our like bolt energy blasters or something. Like it's counterbalancing each other pretty much. So it's cool to see like they have that smarts and they are aware of like, okay, we can't beat these guys in like an actual fight. We got to be smart. So it's cool how they point out that. I was like, okay, that's typical Mandalorians. They know weaponry. They know how to do all that. What my biggest takeaway from all the action was how important the Force still is throughout Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously Grogu, this little 2 foot, maybe 1 foot animal, uses the Force to put a Rancor to sleep. Like how fire is that? And it's
Man.
like and it's crazy how this show is all about bounty hunters, the underworld, the grittiness, the last of Star Wars, which is great. It's what we want. But then you still emphasize how important the Force is, which is a great thing. I kind of felt that was a negative too with this particular episode, just because it's like I thought we're trying to get away from that. We're trying to focus on like the other side of Star Wars. But like I said, this is why we actually need a show that's more based upon the Force and Jedis and Sith and stuff too. But like I said, I love the action. I love seeing Grogu back. I love seeing Mando and Boba teaming up. I love the townspeople showing up actually and like defending their town and like just getting in that grind. And I felt there was real stakes. I thought people were going to die. Like
Mhm.
I thought Chrysanthemum was gonna die. Swear to God. But
Oh man,
I
what a
was wrong.
Wookiee.
I legit thought he was gonna die.
That was bad. I love going back to like that first sequence when like the Trandoshans just like reveal themselves as, going after him, and they just pull out their
Yeah,
swords and people start screaming bloody murder, and he's just
yeah,
like, you can see how powerful he is. Just like, holy crap, especially with the weapon he has. It's just like shoots people in midair and they fly backwards, like the amount of force, and he has to like get covered by like 5 or 6 of these Trandoshans, and then he still manages to like walk out of that whole situation. Like that guy is the MVP, man.
right.
Yeah, I agree with both your guys. A lot of your guys' points there. Like, the action, it was done pretty well. So at some points the fight, I did think the editing, it's just something about the editing I thought could have been improved. Like sometimes at some points, like it felt like the fight was getting drawn out a little bit. Which I don't know. I felt like it kind of got a little draggy. But other than that, like I just think the fight played out pretty well. Overall, like you said, Chris, like the pacing, like jumping around from like this is going on, this is going on, this is going on, like all these different things. And then of course, during the fight, you know, also I think it's so funny, man. Amy Sedaris' character, she definitely is not a good babysitter because she goes and takes Grogu into this battle. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, like, hold up here. Like, I figured Grogu, and her were going to be at the very end once it got resolved. Like, oh, hey, look, we showed up with your friend. And it's like, oh, wait, we're going to show up in this big battle. Like, I thought that was just a funny little moment. Her character's grown on me because I wasn't a big fan of it at first. And her character's grown on me. Like, it's just, she's the new kind of comic relief. I think she's really hit her stride on it. And fun little thing about her. I was reading an interview with her earlier in the week, and apparently she doesn't call it Grogu on set. Like she still just says Baby Yoda. Like she refuses to say Grogu actually. So it was like a fun little, just a fun little thing about her. But yeah, I think the whole fight went well. And of course, having the Grogu and Mando reunion during it was pretty epic in my opinion, because stakes were on the line for Mando. Of course, we knew Mando wasn't going to die or anything, but stakes were on the line for Mando. Grogu was getting involved, so he was in danger. And that was the shot everybody wanted. Like everybody was waiting on that shot, whether it be in this show or Mando season 3 or whatever. Like we were all waiting on the Grogu Mando reunion, and it happened a lot earlier than I think a lot of people expected. And again, this episode though shows how popularized Grogu is to the overall grander scale audience, because there's so many people that I saw like posting the gif of Grogu and Mando hugging, or people just posting, oh my gosh, Grogu's back, or blah 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 blah. Like people get so excited over that character, and that just shows you how important he is to. In my opinion, he's the most important character in Star Wars right now.
Yeah,
and here I'll back that up too before you go on, Chris. Like I've been watching a lot of the reactions on YouTube of like the Luke episode, and literally I'm talking about grown men and women are like, oh my God, Baby Yoda's back, like starts crying, and obviously they're hype about Luke. But like they're like, oh, he's such a cute, precious guy. Like everyone loves that character, So you're not wrong. This emphasized how important that character is. I think Grogu, honestly, might be blasphemy, but he might be a top 5 Star Wars character right now in the sense of like of all time.
Definitely.
At least top 10.
In my opinion, Milton, I think an overall impact. I think he's top 3. In my opinion, I think him and Vader are like right there, right in the top 2 spots, like back and forth right now, because like Vader has the similar impact, of course, in a totally different way. Right. But Grogu, I mean, basically, if you look at it this way, Vader has the dark side impact where we're all like, oh my gosh, what's Vader going to do? And Grogu has the light side impact of like, holy crap, Grogu's back. Like, because when he's on screen, everybody's just glued to the screen.
That's what I'm saying. Everyone's glued to the screen.
Yeah, because like
he could walk. I mean, literally in these reactions, he was skipping across the rocks and like, oh, like people crying about that. I'm like, damn, like that. I mean, that's a great thing, but it's like,
Oh yeah. Well, that's like there's a girl I know. She watches this show, and she texted me at like 6 o'clock in the morning that day. She was like, "Holy f, Grogu's back!" And I texted her back when I finally woke up at like 10 in the morning. I was like, "Yeah, like he's back," because people were waiting on the Mando Grogu reunion, and that's what they got, and it hit so perfectly. And to me, props to everybody involved with like the Mandoverse of shows and things. Like I tweeted about earlier in the week, I'm at a point now, and I can say this too, honestly, and it's not even just overreacting. The way, in my opinion, Boba's been handled this season alone, and the way Mando's been handled through the Mando shows and then through his appearance in this show, like they've made me like Mando and Grogu more than I like Boba Fett, actually.
Yeah.
Like I'm at a point now where I just don't really care much about Boba Fett personally. It's like because now I'm at a point where like, okay, let's get back to Mando and Grogu. Like that's what I'm at now, because I just think they've developed the Mando character so well. They've developed Grogu's personality so well, and it's great. Speaking of his character development, having him he basically has the same kind of like force powers like Anakin and Ezra had at calming animals down, So that was really cool seeing him be able to do that. And, I can't wait because we're going to see more of his force powers in season 3 of Mando.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's got a lot of powers to begin with, right? He can heal people. He can use the force telekinesis to levitate the Mudhorn. He could put creatures to sleep. Like there's a lot going on with him, and going back to that to the return of both of those characters, the meeting of them, I thought it was kind of funny because like in my head I was imagining like this really long drawn out quiet scene of Din Djarin seeing him in the fields on whatever Jedi Temple planet that is with Luke, and they're having this long drawn out like embrace. No, they're like, it's a shock reveal where it's just like, oh, you're in the back of this car and there's a droid trying to kill us. It's like, okay, we gotta do this reunited thing a little bit later while we're not being killed. And it was just like that funny, like, I did not expect it to be in the middle of a battlefield.
Well, funny story for you guys and for our listeners and viewers. So like I said before, my grandma watches this show and everything, and she liked the finale a lot. So we got talking when we were over there yesterday. We got talking about the Grogu Mando meeting. And we'd talked before at first how we were kind of thinking like, oh, maybe we won't see Mando and Grogu. This was before the last 3 episodes. We won't see them reunite until like end of Mando season 3. I think that's what a lot of people are thinking. It'll be late into Mando season 3. It'll be drawn out. Well, and my grandma laughed. She's like, well, the reason why they brought him back, don't you? And why they had him have that hug. And I was like, why is that? And she pulled out a $1 bill. She's like, that's those Disney people saying they need their money and they need Grogu back in the show. And I was like, well,
oh my gosh,
that's
she
probably
ain't lying.
That's probably part of it too, because I guarantee you also, like, I can't lie, I like if you're Kathleen Kennedy and you're looking at the script for Book of Boba and you're like, hold up, there's no Grogu in this, and this thing is the hottest thing in the entire world. Like, you're going to put Grogu in this, like, whether you like it or not. And it wouldn't surprise me if they pulled the strings to say, hey, let's rework some things to get Grogu in this, because why wouldn't you capitalize? And they did it in a way where it wasn't too
right
on the nose. Like, of course, we had the one episode that was literally just all Mando, basically. But they didn't really do it too on the nose, where it was just like, oh, Grogu and Luke are just hanging out in Mos Espa too. Like, they actually incorporated it pretty well. So, like, I think they did it in a good way. But yeah, I mean, Grogu's back, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I think it's clearly evident if we're looking at the season, and again, we're going to talk more about the season next week.
Yep.
But like, I think there was reports that this series was only supposed to be like maybe 4 or 5 episodes the most, and then it seemed like it was kind of delayed or something. Like, literally, this came out the last freaking week that it could have come out before it would be technically 2022. They want to have a Star Wars Mando show at least once a year. So I feel like they might have been like, okay, let's rewrite some stuff. Let's maybe shoot 2 extra episodes where we can get these guys in somehow. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like these scripts are probably done 2 years ahead of time, but maybe they didn't see the impact of Grogu when they first wrote those scripts, and they had to rewrite a couple things. Again, this is all just speculation. I know nothing about any of this, but that's another question is if George Lucas was in charge of this property, right? And he didn't have to abide by any shareholders or anybody, like what would that story look like for somebody that didn't depend on the money? Because my whole thing was like, yeah, like you would, if you brought Grogu back too soon, you would kind of defeat the purpose of like that separation,
Right.
that huge moment at the end of season 3. And now people are going to tune into Mando season 3, be like, wait, what? There's a huge moment. Why the hell are they together now?
Yeah. I mean, I think George would have made it. He would have fleshed it out. He would have let it drag a little bit, and that's smart storytelling in the sense of we know we love that character, and our main characters they're gonna have to earn that moment. I mean, that's one of the issues I think with the sequel trilogy in the sense of like a lot of our heroes or even villains don't earn their moments in those movies because it's kind of forced and rushed. You look at the original trilogy. Luke, Leia, and Han, and even Chewie, they earn all their moments in those movies. Look at, Anakin or Obi-Wan and Padme. They all earn their moments in their movies because each movie, something changes or something happens to say, okay, it's like their next trial to where their end game needs to go. And I feel like with this particular show, I felt like Boba didn't really earn the ending that he got. And, pretty much the show ended with Mando and Grogu flying off in hyperspace. Like, that's your lasting image for the book of Boba Fett, Mando and Grogu. To me, that's not smart.
Well, it shows you their priority.
Yeah.
I mean,
and George would have flipped that. George would have said, "Okay, we'll sprinkle these characters in here somewhere," but George would have been like, "Okay, let's keep the focus on Boba and where we're going to take his next 8-plot storyline in season 2 or 3."
Well, or let's also be real here. If George was in charge with the money that's capable and all the technology capable, with him wanting back in the day wanting to do the Clone Wars show and all those things, we would have probably gotten a Luke Grogu show actually. If George was running, I could have seen that maybe a Luke and Grogu show and never run into Mando and then finally run back into Mando in like Mando season 3 or 4, like way down the line. But like, I just think, I don't know. It's just weird because the way this show was, or even the way this episode was crafted, just to stick within the confines of this episode, the way this episode was crafted, a lot of like, sure, we got the Boba Mando action. But again, it's the Boba and Mando action. We got the Grogu, the mystic, kind of mystic feel. Because when Luke's X-Wing showed up, I was like, are they really doing this? Or are we bringing Luke to Tatooine here? And it wasn't. And then it was Grogu flying the basically riding the X-Wing. But it was that cute shot of Grogu in the X-Wing. So people, it's the audience going, oh, so cute, whatever. Like, we get all these moments of Grogu, Mando, Grogu and Mando at the end, like you mentioned, Milton, them flying off, Grogu wanting to do tricks and all that stuff. Like, those type of things are totally unnecessary for the book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
To a certain degree. I feel like, those characters were so integral to Boba Fett's existence at this point that...
Yeah.
They didn't have to use them, but it kind of I feel like it kind of enhances the story to a certain degree, because they're so, like, especially Mando, like, he's so intertwined with Boba Fett as both as Mandalorians, and Grogu's connected and all that. So it does come together in the end. Yeah, a little bit strange that it's showing, but I just thought of this, Milton. So here's the thing, like, they're showing Grogu and Mandalorian in that last shot because that's like the next series we'll probably see.
Right.
So we know from like literally that exact moment in season 3 we'll open up with them in the Naboo starfighter like exiting hyperspace at like Hosnian Prime or wherever is the capital of the New Republic now. And maybe they'll be like, hey, look, there's some things going on that you guys should know about or something like that. You know what I mean? Like maybe they'll go talk to Leia. We don't know.
And that could be it. But I think in the beginning of this show, maybe prior to the show coming on, like weren't people saying, well, this is pretty much Mandalorian 2.5 or whatever?
Yeah.
Like there was talks about that. And
That
again,
was
whether
the
that's
Collider report.
whether that's true or not, from what this shot tells me, there's some truth to that. Just because you're leading that into that show, and again, it makes sense in the sense of, and I said this last week, like this is the Mando verse, and this Mando and Grogu are your money makers, so you obviously got to treat them at a premium. But again, if you're trying to build up multiple characters like Ahsoka, or Boba Fett, Fennec, I know they talk about the Rangers of the Republic at one point. We don't know if that show's even going to happen, but if you're going to build out these universes within these universes, like try to build those up, like sprinkle the Mando dust on it, but let it grow as its own too.
Yeah, I just hope that we go ahead, Ben.
I was gonna just say real quick. I think when it comes to it, that's a good point. Like our Arrow experience here, our Arrowverse experience is working really well for our commentaries here.
Love it.
Like I think we're at a point where us as fans are gonna, not to like throw shade on any of the other characters like Ahsoka or the Rangers cast or Luke or anybody. Like I think we're at a point now where we're just going to have to like almost settle with Mando is the new Oliver Queen per se, where like he's going to pop in on these shows and he's going to be the star, because like in the Flash, for example, if Arrow would show up, you cared about Arrow showing up. You didn't really care about
Oliver.
You didn't care about the Flash for the week. You didn't care about Supergirl for the week. You cared about Oliver showing up. And I think we're at a point where Mando and Grogu are kind of turning into like the Oliver showing up for the week for the show, where I think we're going to have to almost deal with that through these Mandoverse shows. And it just, to me, as long as it works naturally and does it pretty well, like for example, I for sure don't want Mando showing up and dominating 2 or 3 episodes of the Ahsoka show.
He best not be there. He don't need to be in that show.
No, but he's gonna be. I mean, just
because
I think with the he's gonna be with the Grogu connection and the Force and everything. But I just think it just matters the execution and how they do it versus as long as they just don't overdo the overall exposure of Mando and Grogu versus the other characters. Like you need to keep them, to me, we always talk about I always bring up like Mando season 2. They used the cameo characters perfectly. Like they used Ahsoka. They didn't let Ahsoka overshadow Mando. He was still the star of that episode still. It was still focused on him. But to me, they flipped that for this series and they made Mando turn into the star at the end. And that's a concern moving forward after watching even this final episode, moving into the other shows, is I just don't want him overshadowing characters in their own shows just for the sake of, hey, look, it's Mando and Grogu.
But, there's a reciprocation of that now, because you can have a Boba Fett episode in Mando season 3, which seems very likely at this point. Anything is possible at this point. We could have a 2-episode arc inside of Mandalorian season 3 of him dealing with these newcomers on Tatooine, hearing about what he's done against the Pikes.
Right. And Chris, you're not wrong. I mean, again, it could be flipped and it could work for all we know. But like I said, moving forward, what if they decide to do another Boba season or even with Mando seasons, like just try to keep some of that separation, but obviously just continue to build your characters. Like that's all we want is great storytelling, character building, and just keep moving keep building that universe. Yeah,
because correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't really had anything quite like this in Star Wars before, right? Like these direct crossover spin-off series. Yeah, Clone Wars they're a single series, but we haven't had 2 intersecting shows at the same time. So, I feel like Lucasfilm is kind of learning along the way. Of course, they're looking to their brothers over there at the Marvel Cinematic Universe doing it on the movie screens, but on Disney Plus, it's like, okay, this is new territory. There might be a little bit of rough edges, but I think maybe by this time next year, they'll have a lot of feedback, and we'll see things kind of even smoother down the road.
Oh, 100%. I think it'll smooth out. Hey, I should be the first person petitioning. They need to just call Greg Berlanti from the CW and be like, hey, how do we do these crossovers? And, get a consultation. Because I think the crossovers have really good potential the way they're doing these shows. It just matters how they do it, because I think there's, we're going to have Luke reappear at some point, because you're not going to just do the graphics with him and, not ever use it again. We're going to have obviously Ahsoka. It just matters how you use them. And the big thing, as you mentioned, Chris, about Boba maybe reappearing in Mando, the big thing they're just establishing, I think, at the moment, or trying to establish, is all of these characters like Boba, like Cobb Vanth, RoboCop version, like Ahsoka, like Luke, and like all the rest. They're trying to establish them to lead up to the whole climatic thing or whatever Kathleen Kennedy mentioned, like whatever big battle that's going to happen. Apparently, we're presuming it's going to be Thrawn. So, like, I think they're just trying to really set the roots and groundwork for the basically like the Avengers Endgame for the Mandoverse.
Oh yeah, that's what's the beauty part about this is we're gonna have such a wide array of rich characters, and a lot of these characters we do not know what their fate is gonna be. So that's what's great about we're gonna have some of those characters we know their fates in Force Awakens and sequel trilogy, but it's still cool to see all these characters now, and we're gonna see that expanding even more. I can't wait to even think about who's gonna show up in season 3 of The Mandalorian, or who else is gonna show up in Ahsoka. Well, we actually know a lot of those characters that are gonna probably show up in there, and maybe we'll get a new version of Rangers of the New Republic down the road, something like that. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to, and we'll go into our final thoughts and score out of 10 for the final episode, episode 7 of the Book of Boba Fett. And I will throw it off to Milton, who started off with the initial impressions. We'll go in the same order there.
Yeah. Again, it wasn't a terrible finale. I think this is probably better than the Bad Batch finale for sure. I just felt that, obviously I mentioned the music, the graphics were cool. Some of the editing had I had issues with the editing. I think the plot was a little up and down on where they were trying to take the show, but I get where they were going. I just wish they would have set us up for a season 2, or at least made it more obvious to set us up for a season 2. I know the post credit was a waste of time. I mean, if I'm Tim, that's probably wasn't even Timothy Olyphant like himself in that tank. Probably like a freaking model,
stunt double.
Yeah, stunt double or something, whatever. But I mean, it is what it is. I really don't have anything super positive to say in the fact that I was overwhelmed or overblown by this episode, because I wasn't. It was just, So I'd get it a 6.75 out of 10.
All right. Yeah, that's
again. It just didn't. It didn't grab me where I was like, oh man, like I need to watch this again. It really wasn't rewatchable, honestly. For me.
Yeah. And that's what we need, right? Is we need something that it was really good up until the end. I'm telling you, all it had to do was give us a little bit of tease, and that would have made it a great episode.
So I feel like it was kind of like a sandwich. Like the beginning of it was, the bread. The meat was actually, again, the action and them trying to do what they need to do to survive. I like the meat, and then at the end it was like, what are we doing? This is crazy. So
Yep. And again, if we had a clear direction of the plot in the first place, that could have all been rectified even more.
Right.
So I'm going to kind of echo your thoughts here. Yeah, action was great. Some cool dialogue and stuff between Boba and Cad Bane. Still a little bit shallow on Boba's part. We could have gotten more into his psyche and understood what exactly is going on. What is he in his position exactly as Cad Bane asked him. And just the Rancor stuff was pretty freaking awesome. Seeing like kaiju action in Star Wars is not to really get, but like I got King Kong vibes out of that. I'm going to go ahead. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. It was a good finale, but it could have been much, much better. And I'll throw it over to Ben.
Gosh, we always save the dark side for last. So I think the episode was fine. Like it had some good points to it. Like you both mentioned, the action was pretty good for the most part here and there. To me, I think it could have been edited down a little bit, but overall the action was pretty good. I liked seeing Mando and Grogu appear. That was great. The reunion was done really well. I think it was done at in my opinion, a good time for Mando, just because it's also it's like the whole Mandalorian culture being in wars and stuff. So it's kind of fitting for him. And now Grogu being a Mandalorian, another Mandalorian like reuniting. I thought that was kind of a cool like symbolic thing that they were in a battle together. They're reuniting is in basically like their first battle as Mandalorians together. I thought that was a pretty cool like symbolism there. And then some of the nostalgic things, seeing Luke's X-wing. I really like Amy Sedaris's character. She's turned out really surprisingly well. And you even mentioned earlier, Chris, that little assistant guy. He turned out to be pretty good, pretty comedic. I didn't mind that at all. Like, and they actually explained why he was, that way. It was cool. They mentioned Coruscant. Like, I loved hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there were certain things in this episode I think that were just so questionable. Like, to me, you made Boba like not as smart. Like, sure, his action with Mando was great. Like, we loved those sequences. Like, as I mentioned, his music's really great and everything. Like, it's always such like a almost it just has like a villain vibe to it, even though he's not a villain anymore, but it has a villain vibe to it. But like they made Boba like less smart, less I don't know, how does he go from being such a cunning bounty hunter capturing Han Solo and all this stuff to making such poor decisions? Like, he lets like the people talk him into staying versus basically going back to the palace as a base, like those type of things. He goes back to the palace to get the Rancor instead of the Slave One, even though the Slave One, see, my thing with it, we mentioned earlier about the city damage, but the Slave One has rockets in it that literally zoom in and out of an asteroid field chasing Obi-Wan all throughout this asteroid field perfectly. So they have perfectly homing missile rockets on the Slave One that could easily track down that droid and just blown it to bits. But instead of that, he chooses the Rancor. That's going to just cause a ton of destruction, and it's not even probably fully trained yet because they had to use Grogu to like save the day basically with the Rancor. So like, to me, they just like really downgraded Boba's character, like from being such a cunning bounty hunter to, he's slowly, to me, has got turned into a jobber. In like WWE terms, he's gotten turned into a jobber for Mando. And I don't like that because Boba's kind of another like legacy character. And it's like, what are we doing here? But like overall, I thought, the episode was fine. The action was good. I didn't like the ending to it. I think it was a little too cheesy as well. Just the whole meeting between Fennec and Boba and Coruscant. Like, it just felt so like,
it felt like something out of the comic books. And I kind of appreciate that. It felt like a comic book like panel or something.
Yeah. It just felt, I don't know. It just felt really on the nose. But like that, and then just the ending to it, I think it should have been flipped around. You should have had the Mando thing first, and then cut back maybe to Boba and Fennec and them meeting, just for kind of to wrap it up, saying, "Hey, this is the Book of Boba," and then even the the post-credit scene, like we all discussed, like it's just, you could cut it out and it doesn't mean anything. So like, I just thought the post-credit was a waste. Like, you could have easily used that to tease something, and you didn't. And then just Cad Bane, we discussed Cad being basically wasted, but now he's probably, because I watched the episode twice as always, and you can tell, like, when he gets stabbed, they cut back to him and you see the light flashing. So like, he's obviously going to be alive. Like, why else? Unless we come out next week and Dave Filoni says, "Hey, that red light means dead," he's probably coming back. So we don't have to worry too much about that. I just thought it was kind of lame how he went out. But overall, I thought the episode was fine. And to me, even with all my critiques and everything, I would have to give it a 6 out of 10.
Okay, that's better than I thought, with all that being said.
Yeah, it's still a 6 out of 10. Like, even my critiques and whatnot, it's a 6 out of 10. I think it was solid. It was fine. But I can also add to the con side of things. I don't need to see much more of Robert Rodriguez directing. Like, I'm sure he's a fine guy and everything. I respect like artists, doing their thing directing, but I'm good. I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can comment down below. Let us know what your thoughts and your score out of 10 for the finale of Book of Boba Fett. Just like Christopher Weber left us a comment. I don't know, as an episode of this show, I thought this was one of the better ones. I understand as a finale, it doesn't set up much, but I personally enjoyed it more than most of the other episodes. He also adds, with the caveat that Cad Bane's not dead, because if he is really dead, I really don't understand that. So yeah, that's what a lot of us are feeling at this moment. And as I said many times throughout this, we are going to be wrapping up an entire season look and discussion at the Book of Boba Fett on next week's episode. So come prepared to add in any cool little insights you have about that series next week. And with that, we are going to shift as quickly as Disney shifted to the next thing on the radar. We have officially gotten, finally, the confirmed release date for the first episode of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. It will be airing on Disney Plus on May 25th of this year. And we also got a kick-ass poster, a teaser poster with Kenobi there on the sands of Tatooine. So we are not done with Tatooine. If you've gotten tired of it for Boba Fett, well, hopefully maybe this will be like a better I don't know about better representation, but you know what I have to say. You're going to see more desert, more sands. What's your guys' reaction to this?
Can't wait. This is the one show I've been hyped for. Like, look, who's doing this? Deborah Chow? She's doing this show?
Yeah, she's directing every episode. Apparently.
Yeah, every single episode.
You know what, though? I'm fine with that because we have one director, one writer. Again, it was just like with the first season of Mando for the most part, except for like the last 2 or 3 episodes. A lot of it was John, Favreau, but I need that consistency. I like Deborah Chow as a creator and as a storyteller. It's Ewan McGregor. Like, how you can't go wrong with him. It's Obi-Wan, dude. And I just saw an article, I think was it today or yesterday, he did an article with Forbes, or I can't remember if it was Forbes or some other important syndication out there.
It was
Forbes.
Yep.
He talked about why he came back. And he said pretty much like, the fans of the prequels that love this character and love the prequels, I came back for them, And I was like, dude, like, how dope is that? Like, he has this mind in the right space to say, listen, like, I love this character myself. I love this universe. I'm doing this for all the right reasons. And I want to tell this 10-year story or this gap that hasn't been told visually before. We've read about it. We've heard the rumor and innuendo about what happened during those 20 years on Tatooine. It's like, man, I'm so hyped for this show. Like, if this show is trash, like, I'm going to be so mad. So mad. Like, Chris, you're going to have to censor every word that comes out of my mouth. I'm not kidding you, because I'm dropping F-bombs every other word if it's trash.
Yeah, this show now, in my opinion, we talked about it in the chat, conspiracy theory. After the mixed reactions of the Boba finale, they 100% they dropped this just to settle everybody down.
Here's the thing. As much as I kind of agree, and I was the one that actually pessimistically maybe brought that up in the chat.
You did.
I did realize that there was a Disney Investors Day or Disney's Investors Meeting or something literally that day. So as much as some of us might want to think that was the case, but it coincidentally coincided with that investors meeting where they released like the details of like how Disney Plus is doing and all that. So,
but Chris, let's be real. I mean, you're right. You're probably right, but let's be real though.
I think it was scheduled for Friday, not Wednesday.
Yeah, if Boba was hitting on every cylinder the last, let's say last 5 weeks.
Yeah, they already prepared it. Yeah,
they would have said, you know what, let's put it off for like a couple weeks or whatever.
Whatever.
Let's have 3 different dates when to release, especially like let's keep the attention on Boba Fett, because let's be real here. What was talked about on Twitter when that leaked tweet went out, Obi-Wan, that dominated lots of headlines within the Twitterverse, social media verse. Nobody was talking about Boba until the episode came out.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's the big thing, because this show, the Kenobi series specifically, has now, after the Book of Boba being kind of, I would say, lukewarm for a lot of people, I think the Kenobi show has so much pressure on it now. So much pressure. Like, it has to, like sure, of course the first episodes may or may not be slow because it's the intro, but the show has to hit. Like, there's no question about it. The show has to hit, because if this show doesn't hit, that's going to put a major black mark on all of the Disney Plus series moving forward, in my opinion. Like other than Mando, I think Mando's plot armor, it's basically safe. But the other spin-off shows like Ahsoka, Rangers, potentially other shows that are rumored out there in the news.
Cassian Andor.
Oh, Cassian, yeah, that's another one. Like, it's going to put so much pressure on all those other shows. Like, I think the Kenobi show, but that's also why I think they probably put the most effort out of all these shows. They probably put the most effort into this show because they know everyone's going to be watching it with a microscope. And
dude, Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor, like everybody wants to see them together again.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point I was going to get to next, Milton, was so in that Forbes article, interesting thing, Ewan says, like, sure, it could be just tongue in cheek because he was obviously referencing Hayden, and Hayden plays Anakin, but he literally says it was good being Obi-Wan and Anakin in scenes together. Like, he mentions being in scenes as Obi-Wan and Anakin. Dude. So that means, are we talking flashback here, or potentially maybe he's trying to talk to Anakin in the Vader suit or something?
Or
like,
maybe,
say, hey,
it could be flashbacks, like you said, of the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
because I mean, they could take a scene out of the Clone Wars cartoon and just and make it live action, or take like cut scenes that weren't in the, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can make that work. Hell, what if they brought in like a young Ahsoka?
Yeah, I mean, it's highly possible with all the different things out there that's about this Kenobi series. Like, I think all cards are fully on the table for this.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the releasing of this. I mean, we have a big Super Bowl coming up here in a few days, and generally the thing that's happened is they've released like a teaser poster like a day before the trailer or something, or like the day of the trailer.
Right.
I haven't heard anything about anybody talking about a trailer at the Super Bowl, but I mean, this is kind of the way to do it. I mean, they've released a Solo trailer at the Super Bowl one year.
I was gonna say, guys, wasn't the Solo trailer at the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know if they would come out like, let's say tomorrow, the day before, and be like, hey, tune in to Super Bowl for your first look at Kenobi, and people would just lose their minds, or are they going to just like put it in there without telling anybody?
I can see him pulling that because it's Disney, but also too, when's Star Wars Celebration?
It's not until May. Actually, it literally starts the day after Kenobi. It starts on May 26th.
Okay. And I was asking because I wasn't sure when it started, but it's like, if it was, let's say if it was April, I could see them putting the trailer out in April, but like, yeah, we're going to get the heavy marketing picked up in March. I think post Super Bowl we'll get I wouldn't be shocked if we got some type of teaser on Sunday, but we're not getting a full 3-minute trailer.
No.
Well, the Solo trailer was literally only like 30 seconds. Like, it was only like a traditional spot. It was like 30 or 45 seconds. It was just a couple cuts here and there, and the Millennium Falcon.
Right. I mean,
like, it was quick.
I wouldn't be mad. So
they have so much shot already. They don't have to use a heavy CGI shot. They could give us like a teaser, like 30-second clip of just like Ewan walking across the sands of Tatooine. Like, you don't have to have like 20 different scenes edited for this like awesome thing. You could have a long drawn out like extended scene or something.
Yeah, all you need to do. Have you guys seen like the fan favorite or the fan made like Obi-Wan, where like the guy looks like Jesus walking across the sand? Just replicate that shot of Ewan McGregor doing a voiceover saying, back, Luke, I knew your father, blah blah blah. Give us an old Alec Guinness reference or a line, which would be dope. And then young Ewan just walking across the sands. Yeah. And all of a sudden you're like, who's this guy in the sand? And all of a sudden he peels it back and it just pans to the camera and it's Ewan McGregor dirtied up. I'd be like, that's fire. That's all I need. Listen, that's all I need. Listen, I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it.
Well, and also, guys, did you notice on the poster, zoom in, he's carrying Anakin's lightsaber.
I can't make that out still. I looked at it.
Yeah,
is it really
you gotta zoom in. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's definitely 100% Anakin's lightsaber.
Just show a shot of him literally sitting in his hut, just reminiscing, and all of a sudden he opens up a chest, and then he just looks, and all of a sudden the saber is glistening, and then it cuts to like a quick shot of them fighting like a Mustafar, and he
Oh,
he,
no.
he gets a flashback and steps back from it. Like it's just like traumatized.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
bro, give us a shot. Dude, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it right now. Like seriously, like
Okay.
give us that shot. I'll be done.
I have an idea for you, Milton, aka Lucasfilm marketing team. So here's an idea with your Alec Guinness take. Why not have a shot or have a little quick scene of Ewan sitting in the hut, looking at the lightsabers, Let's have him looking at Qui-Gon's lightsaber or something, and then have the voiceover be Alec Guinness saying, "For 1,000 generations, Jedi Knights protected blah 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 blah." The line from A New Hope.
Yeah,
That would be awesome.
Son, I'm serious. Like I'm legit like getting goosebumps right now because
they've done a trailer like that never got officially released at Celebration for Rogue One. For the Rogue One reveal, they showed like some CGI thing, and it had his voiceover, and it showed like pans up through a jungle, and it shows the Death Star, but it's literally Obi-Wan reciting that famous line.
But they panned the shot out where you see like the silhouette of it, and you're like, oh shit, like that's fire. Like, Chris, Lucasfilm, please let us cut the trailer for you, okay? We got 3 different ideas. We got 5 of them. We got you. It don't got to be no more than 30 seconds because it probably costs $5 million for a 30-second spot for a Super Bowl.
Or if we're in charge, Milton, we just press the button and put the whole series to Disney Plus.
Oh, you're damn right.
But it's interesting, right? Because we've never gotten a Disney Plus series announced this early. It's almost 4 months ahead of this thing's release. You know, we're sitting here like about halfway through February, so maybe like 3.5 months before the series. Usually I think like they announced Mando or Boba Fett like about maybe a month and a half before it came out, maximum 2 months. So again, it shows how much confidence that they have in this series. Like it's basically in the can. It's basically like ready to go already if they're promoting it this like soon. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, look, they have obviously all. I mean, I would at least think they're touching up on some CGI, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Some music editing, some touch ups here or there, but we know they're not reshooting anything.
Oh no, definitely not. I think I agree with you both. It's definitely all in the can for sure. And now that I got thinking about it, I definitely can amend my statement of saying maybe the first episode will be slower because I didn't even think about it this way, Chris. If this is a day before Celebration, they're going to want to get people buzzing about the Kenobi show. So I guarantee you there's probably going to be something really interesting or really maybe actiony or something. There's going to be the big hook we're looking for, that we look for in Book of Boba. I think they're going to hook us in the first episode of Kenobi, and that'll get all of you guys who are at Star Wars Celebration buzzing and talking.
Yeah, it's going to be insane in Star Wars Celebration this year because I'm going to be traveling that Wednesday that it comes out to California, so I'm probably going to just wake up at 3 a.m. and just get an early flight to go, knowing that I'm not going to be able to sleep for many reasons that day. But it'll be cool because I'm sure they're going to have Ewan and Hayden there. They're going to have a big panel. They're going to probably show us at least one other episode before it comes out, if not maybe 2. I wouldn't be surprised if we walk out of there like having seen half the series by then.
Right.
But it's just going to be like we've never had anything of that caliber at Celebration where we've had literally a brand new Star Wars anything coming out like that weekend. Like the buzz around that place is going to be on a completely other level, and it was already insane to begin with in Chicago when there was nothing coming out. And that was before Mando.
And so you said the not Mando, Obi-Wan shows that it comes out a day after the
day
premiere.
before.
The day before Celebration. Everybody's going to be traveling there as this thing comes out.
I'm about to say I can see them being saying, you know what, you guys took the time. Imagine this. Kathleen comes out during the Obi-Wan panel, and he's like, you know what, fans, we released it overnight. We guys were traveling to California. Y'all saw the premiere this morning. We got up groggy. Let's give you episode 2 since you're here. You know,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden she shows you guys episode 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Imagine you get off the flight after watching episode 1, you sleep for 2 hours, you
Yeah.
walk into whatever convention room it is
Yeah.
in Hall H or whatever, and it's like, oh, here's episode 2, by the way, just to reward
It's
you
like,
guys
what?
for traveling. Could you imagine?
The adrenaline
guys.
that just shoots through everybody's veins. Like, we're not
Yeah.
tired anymore. Go!
Yeah. We'll wake you up for the next 12 hours by showing you Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Well, guys, they have precedence for it. Wasn't one of these Star Wars shows where they doubled up the episodes like on a Friday and a Monday or Sunday or something? Like,
Yeah.
was it Clone
I think
Wars?
it was Clone
or
Wars.
Was it... Yeah, because they
Clone
doubled
Wars.
it up. Remember,
Really?
they doubled up something. I don't remember what series it was. It wasn't Mando season 1, was it?
Bad Batch?
I think it was Clone Wars.
It might have been Clone Wars, actually.
Yeah.
Because remember, they doubled it up. It was like a Friday and a Monday, or it was like a Monday,
Oh.
then the following Friday.
Yeah. That's right. That was right.
See, they have the precedence for it already. So I agree with you, Milton. I think they could pitch it in a way like, hey, you guys traveled all this way, blah, blah, blah. You know, we appreciate you as the fans. And here's the thing. They don't have this planned already. They need to be listening to this podcast and take this idea and use it, because the fans would go crazy. Like they would look like, these are the type of, in my opinion, the fan things like us as fans want from Star Wars. Like, because the fan relationship has been so shaky, in my opinion, with Lucasfilm and Star Wars as a whole.
Yeah.
Like, it's always back and forth. Like, this is a perfect like olive branch to the fans. Like, hey, we appreciate you guys. So like, I think something like that would be really cool. And if they don't do that, you know, obviously, if you're listening to this, don't expect to get an episode. Just like hope it's a surprise, but don't expect it. But like, even if they don't do that, just do things at Celebration. You know, like bring out Ewan, bring out Hayden, bring out you know, Deborah Chow, whoever. Like, you know,
I can see them bringing out what's his name, E. McDermott, because we don't know if he's in the show. You know, he could be a cameo with Vader. He very well could be. He could be a cameo for all we know. And I mean, could you imagine seeing those three together in the room? Or how even Natalie Portman showing up, because she might be in flashbacks, like scenes whenever Hayden's having his, like, he's in his chamber with his suit off and thinking about Padme. Imagine if she was at Star Wars Celebration. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'm in the show, by the way," and no one else knew about it except for the fans.
Yeah, I've been saying it for months and months. Like, the ideal cameo for this series would be a flashback to Natalie Portman, because there's been no rumors about it, nothing. Yeah. Like, if they would flashback to her, you know, fans would probably go crazy.
Yeah, and or they do the scene whenever from the comics where Vader goes to Naboo, to her like grave, or something. There's that picture out there where he just puts his hands on her tomb, and there's like a big battle in the background, but he's just like grieving. Imagine seeing that in live action. Oh man. Let me write the show. Come on, stop. Kathleen, hire your boy. I got you right here.
You Milton and Chris. Let's go, Oscar.
Come on, man. Hire your boys.
Oh, you know man. But yeah, I mean, that's just funny. Again, the day that the last episode of Book of Boba Fett comes out, we're already looking at the next thing. You know what I mean? Facts. We're already looking at the next thing, and you can better believe that we're going to be talking about this show probably on an almost weekly basis on the lead up to the show, because hey, before this date was officially announced, we already had more casting announcements thanks to the people over at the Bespin Bulletin. They broke this exclusive reveal of Rupert Friend, who is confirmed to be in the show, is playing none other than the Grand Inquisitor himself. So this is quite interesting, because the Grand Inquisitor was originally voiced by Jason Isaacs. He appeared in Star Wars Rebels in season 1. He was the main antagonist of the different characters, Kanan and Ezra and Sabine and all those people, Hera. And it's reported in this that he's basically with these other Inquisitors, and it's described as we see him, like he has to go through so much transformation makeup. It's like he's literally in hours and hours of makeup. My only thing is, and I'm sure this guy is great, but it's like, well, if he has to go through hours of makeup, why can't they just get the original voice actor to go in there and do it? Because he's a live action actor too, Jason Isaacs. He's in a lot of stuff. Yes,
that's true.
Yeah.
But right now he does have a show. He's working for CBS right now. He does a show called Good Sam. It's a hospital show, and I actually watch it every Wednesday. So he's busy in Canada shooting that show. So that might be why he can't do the live action component now, that don't mean he can't do the voiceover.
True.
So now I know why would this actor sign up to be a live action version of Grand Inquisitor and not hear his voice?
Mm-hmm.
But whoever played, what's his name, Cad Bane, like that wasn't the actor that voiced him. I guarantee you that.
No,
So,
it wasn't.
like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So you can bring Jason Isaacs and say, hey, you do the voiceover for the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah, the only thing I know about this actor is he did play Agent 47 in the Hitman movie. Never seen it.
Yeah.
The games are great. I just don't know how he is as an actor anyway.
Right.
But like you said, it's yeah.
Movie trivia. Guess who else played Agent 47 in the Hitman films before the one before his?
I didn't even know there was another Hitman film.
There was. It was your boy Cobb Vanth. He played
Timothy
him.
Oliphant.
What?
Yes, he did. Go watch that movie, Chris.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is this is such an interesting casting. Like you said, the Jason Isaacs thing, it would be cool, but you bring that up, Milton, it being in Canada. I'm sure there's also a lot of travel restrictions with COVID and things like that. I'm sure because this show would have been shooting last year, presumably. So that was even more in the thick of things. So I'm sure, there were restrictions and whatever and things like that. So that's understandable. It just all comes down to, how they portray the character, what they do with it. They mentioned other Inquisitors too in that post. So, what their overall mission is going to be, like why they're in the show, because, we know Vader's obviously the big bad of the series, but, it'll be interesting to see how these Inquisitors, the Grand Inquisitor and basically the other ones interact and how their integration is into this series as a whole, ending up facing Kenobi at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I cannot wait for this Inquisitor action. This is going to be some really awesome stuff here with the show as far as seeing all the red lightsabers, Oh man.
Yep.
Yeah, that's gonna be fire. I mean, like with the circle blades. What do they call their lightsabers? The ones that rotate. You know what I'm talking about? It's just dope to see that. Like, I can't wait to see that in live action.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. More serious. We're gonna shift away from Obi-Wan. We're gonna go to sometime next year. We have news, some rumored reports on Ahsoka. This literally came in just a few hours before we recorded tonight on Friday. This is coming from the Hollywood Reporter, so you pretty much know that this is a good shot of actually being the truth. This is Ray Stevenson is to join the Ahsoka series, and as they claim in this report that he is not playing Grand Admiral Thrawn, but he is playing a villain that is also an admiral or an officer to some degree. And my first thought, and I put it on the chat, our private chat, is, hey, this could be Captain Paleon from the Thrawn trilogy, and he is the right-hand commander of Thrawn. So, I mean, this guy, he's got a storied, this actor has a very storied career, right? He's played, even in Star Wars before, he's done a voice for Garth Saxon in the Star Wars Rebels animated series. So he's no stranger to Star Wars, but he also played in, it looks like, Rome. He played in a lot of other really highly acclaimed series and movies. So there you go, Star Wars getting their hands on another high profile actor. So what are your thoughts? Do you agree with my theory? Do you think he'll play somebody else? Do you have any experience with this actor here?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen him in Rome. I mean, he's really good in Rome. He's actually the comedic tone in Rome in the sense of his character. He did a really good job. He was in Punisher, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
And he did a season of Dexter. I think it was season 8 or 9 or whatever it was. But he's a good actor. I mean, I think he's a British actor. I think
he's yeah.
He's a British actor. Yeah. So I think he comes from a theater background. So he's professional. He has various range as an actor. I don't know what character he's going to play, because let's be real here. Star Wars does do this. They'll say, oh, we're getting so-and-so. Max von Sydow is going to play Lars Santeca. He's in a movie for 5 minutes. It's what? And I'm not trying to be hateful, but I'm saying is anyone could be a huge actor come and make a cameo, for Pete's sake. So it's you never know. I hope he does something well. I hope he contributes to the story and it makes it really good.
Yeah.
I agree. Like you said, Milton, he could be anyone. I do think I agree with you though, Chris. I think if we had to place bets, I think he is going to end up being Paleon just because, it makes sense for the time period. Also, Filoni's involved, so he really knows all of this stuff, that we're talking about, presumably. So I feel like, what other Imperial Admiral would there be? Like, it would be him and Thrawn, or, so like it just makes sense for the series. And Thrawn's got to have his right hand person, so we're gonna see him probably, and I'm sure we're gonna see Rook most likely. So
wait, how Rook is dead?
Oh wait, yeah, Rook's dead. Never mind. I forgot about that. Good catch there. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm sure we'll see him, Paleon. I'm sure this guy will probably end up being him, and if not, it'll just be another probably throwaway Imperial officer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll be a good choice. Like he has like the look of an Imperial officer, so I think it'll fit. Because there's definitely like a look to them, in my opinion. Like, they have to look like kind of classy, or, you know what I'm saying. You can look at all the Imperial officers and they look generally the same.
Yeah, we know that Paleon exists. I think they actually reference his name in Rebels at some point.
Yep. Yeah, he was mentioned in the final season of Rebels, actually. I'm pretty sure... Might not have been Thrawn, but it was like one of the lower Imperial officers mentions Paleon to Thrawn, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, so we didn't see him die, so he's presumably out there somewhere, and he'll just be older. But it'll make sense for the show's time period for Ahsoka.
Yeah. And what's interesting about this guy was Ray Stevenson. I forgot too that he was in he was a voice of the Clone Wars. Did you guys know that?
Of the Clone Wars too?
Yeah, he voiced. I think he was in the Rebel show. He voiced Gar Saxon.
Yeah, Gar Saxon.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So he's already got relations with Lucasfilm. So it's like, well, I've already been doing this thing. Let's give it a live action shot. But and this is supposed to be shooting in April, Ahsoka. So I would assume maybe around this time next year is when we could be getting that season. So I think what could happen is, Mandalorian season 3 comes out around maybe October, November, looking at that optimistically. And then we have a little bit of break. We go right into Ahsoka. And the idea is that, hey, now we're going to be getting hopefully 2 seasons of Mandoverse stuff per year. So you can have more of those. It goes back to our discussion of Book of Boba Fett. You could have like one season or one series that year that's not super centered on Mando, but then have another series that is. And you can kind of bounce back and forth because they're going to probably have that Rangers show or whatever that could be at some point. So, yeah, whether or not certain characters overtake certain shows, the good news is at least we'll have enough of it all together to kind of balance out and not feel like something's left on the back burner for too long.
Right. I agree with that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like that's how it's gonna play out. Like you said too, it's good that we're gonna be getting 2 shows a year, so that'll be balancing things out. We also have the obviously the Kenobi shows just this year, but I'm sure if it breaks every record for Disney Plus, I'm sure they'll find a way to greenlight another season. And even casting it, if it comes out and breaks every record for streaming and stuff, I could see him squeezing in some type of another series.
But here's the thing. They keep saying it's a limited event series. Like if they wrap up everything in that 6th episode and they make this really great ending, and then they undo the ending by having a meaningless like 2nd season that just doesn't even hook in with Vader anymore, like that's gonna feel so added on for no reason. I just hope that if they tell the story they want to tell and end it the way they end it, like good, just leave it alone. Like I don't want them to just make another season just for the sake of it, because then it's gonna just tarnish the entire series overall, and you're gonna get a lesser series because it's gonna be like, well, the 2nd season didn't make sense, so you don't have to watch that. Like that, you don't want to have that happen either.
I totally get that. I just think it all just comes down to storytelling really and how they do it. And like that, that's even like the way Loki was marketed initially. They really made it seem, under Disney anyways, they really made it seem like it was going to be only a 1-season show, and then it ended up being 2 seasons. So like they have precedence in the company of marketing a certain way and then it turning out not to be that way. So I think it just comes down to it. But also, I do think if we don't get a Kenobi season 2, which the chances are high we probably won't. If we don't, though, with all of the casting Andor news for season 2, I think there's a chance we're going to be getting Kenobi popping up in the Andor series, actually.
Could be a possibility. It works, and that's a perfect transition to our next series. We got some Andor news, and well, we've kind of heard through the grapevine that there could have been a season 2 because there's all this nebulous talk from Alan Tudyk, who plays K2SO, about, oh yeah, I don't think I'm in the first season. It's like, wait, he's saying first season, so it sounds like there's more than one season. And now we're having Skarsgård, that actor, man, he's just doing all the work for promoting Cassian Andor, because he's like the only person I ever hear talking about it. The guy has no filter, because he's like, oh yeah, next year I'm going to be shooting this show and Andor season 2. It's like, wait, what? The guy just goes off on rants, and he just answers to like these publications, and like the funniest part is like Disney could have probably just interjected a bit like, hey, don't run with that story, or like cut that out. Don't like run that interview. But they just let it go anyway.
But you know what though? I'm okay with like him talking. I mean, look, and I think Ben always got annoyed with this, like just how secretive Disney wants to be, and how like
let the news be out there. Let it be out there.
Like let's be real here. Like, Disney's a big brand, it's a global brand clearly, but at the end of the day, people are still going to show up and watch. I don't care if Diego Luna himself said, hey, 10 rebels are going to die in this movie or in this show, people are still going to watch. Just let your actors promote your show. They're good at, this is why you hired them. They're good at talking. They're good at acting. They're good at promoting. I want to hear from Alan Tudyk or Tudyk and Diego Luna and whoever's in the show. I want to hear from them.
It's funny, right? Yeah. It's funny.
To me, it feels genuine. Like, honestly, when the marketing starts ramping up for Obi-Wan, I want to hear from Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor. That's all I want to hear from. I don't want to do behind the scenes from. I like Deborah Chow, but I don't want to hear from her. I don't want to hear from Kathy doing her whole, this is what this show's about. No, I want to hear from the actors, because they will promote it the way it needs to be.
And the funny thing with Andor is that it's like, okay, we know this guy. We know where he ends up. We know that the show is taking place approximately 5 years before. So it's not like they're going to spoil, like, oh, he survives because there's a season 2. Like, of course there's going to be more than one season because it's so far ahead. And the production that they're putting into the show, it's like they're actually doing physical production rather than the soundstage stuff that they're doing with Mandoverse stuff. So good for them, and it's good knowing ahead of time that we're getting a second season, because it's not like, oh, we're waiting on pins and needles to see if like it attracted audiences enough to even warrant getting a second season. Kind of like the Bad Batch, right? Like, what was the deal with the Bad Batch? Did they tell us ahead of time that we were getting season 2? I think it wasn't until towards the end, right? It was like in the middle of the season that after.
Oh, it was the best part about it was there was 16 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
So they told us, and it wasn't even speculation. Star Wars tweeted it on the 15th episode, so they spoiled the finale. That, like, basically saying, hey, these characters are going to get another season. It was the official Star Wars posting it on the 15th out of 16th episode.
Yeah. So in that case, they could have been a Rogue One ending where they all sacrifice themselves to save Omega, and well, that's the Bad Batch for you. So there you go. So I'm looking forward to Andor. And a lot of people in the community are also saying, like, this could be the dark horse of like all the Star Wars stuff. Like, a lot of people are like, it's not even on their radar, simply because they're not talking about it. That's part of the reason why. But there's a reason why to care about this. Yeah, it's old era Republic, it's old era Empire stuff, but it's our first espionage show. It's our first show looking at Star Wars from like a spy kind of level. We haven't really had anything quite like that. So
look at how well received that movie got, though. Like Rogue One is considered one of the best Star Wars movies out of the whole series. I mean, I'm talking about, obviously, with the sequel era. Like, Force Awakens made buku money because that was the first one. Everyone was going to ride it without question. But Rogue One's the second best movie. Or it might be the best movie in the sense of, like, story wise compared to some people when it comes to like those sequel generation of films, because of like, again, it's old Empire leading up, or excuse me, old Republic ish leading into the the Empire, and just knowing like, oh, this is a moment as kids we heard of it, we just never saw it. So it's like we love that character. We love that they all died. Spoilers, they die in that movie. But we love that because those are stakes, and that's a great way to put it. Now we have to go back and see, okay, what was this Andor guy all about? Because clearly he has some demons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
well, like you said, the cool thing about it is, they can flesh out his character more, because his character, in my opinion, was the most interesting of the other characters in that movie. Because they set him up as like, whoa, he's having to make these hardcore choices, like, and how he was basically telling Felicity Jones, like, hey, this thing's like a real life, like, this isn't as easy as what you think, basically, like,
I've been living this.
Like, I've been living this. So like, I think it's going to be really interesting seeing his story fleshed out. And also, I don't think, especially with the pattern they made with Mando and Book of Boba, I don't think we'll sit with him just for each episode. I think we're going to be getting more cameos. We'll be getting the other characters popping in. He'll be going on missions and that sort of stuff. And, setting up, leading into Rogue One, whether it be this season. Of course, this is the initial season, so it may not be this. But in the second season, I think a thing they could potentially do, I mean, we have no idea what the story is for this at all, so this is just spitballing. But maybe set up where he has like basically like a friend, like, how Han and Chewie are. Like, have a friend that's with him the whole series, and then at the end of the second season or close to it, he's going to have to make the choice. He's going to have to take his friend out because he's like squealing too much or whatever. And, it's going to establish like making those hard choices for that character, because, it's clear that he's had to do that before in Rogue One. And, as you mentioned too, Milton, like, Rogue One, in my opinion, is the best Disney era Star Wars movie. I think it's by far and away the best, just because of those characters like him and the other ones. I also like, the specter of the Force is there. I think the Force is always integral in Star Wars.
Right.
And even in this series, I think with Andor, we're not expecting the Force to be involved in it, but I do think we're going to be getting, it's going to be appearing in the series one way or another. I think, like, I feel like we'll see Vader maybe just because it's the height of the Empire, but I think there's a chance we might bump into the guy on Jeddah again. We might have that. Like, I think there's always
Saw
those
Gerrera?
No. The blind guy.
Oh, Chirrut
Yeah, I think there's a chance we bump into those type of people, like, because the Force is definitely relevant in Star Wars. And man, I hope, if it is Saw Gerrera, I hope they improve his character, because I did not like that live action debut. I can say that.
They've done so much with that character through the different mediums, whether it's the comics or the video games or the animated series, that I love. Just his character is getting put together so much better now, and you see that slow transition to just absolute craziness by the Rogue One.
Oh yeah, like his character, I mean, Forrest Whitaker's great. Like, he's for sure a great actor. I just didn't like how, I felt like they transitioned him too well. Like, he was too. I wasn't at the time, anyways. We weren't used to seeing animated characters on screen, and like, I think they transitioned him so well. It just threw me for such a big loop, because like, it was just so over the top. Right. But like, I'm not sure if we've heard anything, but I feel like we will probably end up seeing Saw Gerrera, because I feel like you're going to have Mon Mothma saying like, oh, you get this crazy Saw Gerrera guy out there doing his thing or whatever. Like, I think we're going to get a lot of these Rebels vibes we got from, Rebels in this series. And on a side note too, do we know who the like director / showrunner is for this?
I have no idea. I think you're on mute, Chris.
Chris, you're on mute.
The guy that got brought in for Rogue One to help out.
Gilroy?
Yes. Tony Gilroy.
Yeah.
Oh wow. That's okay. That makes me a lot more excited for this series then.
So there you go. And we're going to end off the show by talking about some big High Republic news. Well, first off, there's an update on the series that I was talking about that was being speculated. Well, we have even more evidence to support the Stranger Things in Star Wars-esque series that is on the rumor mill. It's said to be in filming in June already. Sources from Cinelinx, Bespin Bulletin, and LRM are all kind of collaborating with one another on their own various single sources. So it looks like it's pretty much a go. But again, there's not much more information that we know there. And you guys can listen to the last week's show about, what we thought about that in general. And to end off the show, we did have the High Republic show that came out earlier this evening, and they revealed a bunch of new stuff that's coming out for the High Republic. We do have this first thing. It's the Art of the Star Wars, the High Republic, and I've been wanting this thing for the longest time because there's so many characters in the High Republic that I know a lot of us, it could be hard to be like, oh, who's that character, or what do they look like again? Well, finally, we're going to get some sort of like reference book-esque thing that's going to kind of show us what these characters' designs look like, as well as descriptions and storytelling for how the project came to be. It's almost gonna be like kind of like a biography-esque type of thing for the series. But then they also released a whole list of the authors and the titles of the first books of Phase 2, Wave 1. So I'll run through the list of those. We have the young adult novel called Path of Deceit that's written by Tessa Grattan and Justina Ireland. We also have the middle grade novel, The High Republic Quest for the Hidden City, that's written by George Mann. We also have our big Del Rey adult novel written by Zoraida Cordova called Convergence. And then we have a whole bunch of comics coming out. So as we talked about a couple months prior, Disney let go of their relationship licensing with comics with IDW, and now they're going to be starting up with Dark Horse Comics. So we have our first official Dark Horse Comics. Here we're talking about Dark Horse Comics with Claudia Gray. She's going to be writing a series called Quest of the Jedi. And then in the prior months, we also had confirmation from, Daniel Jose Older is going to be writing a High Republic graphic novel for Dark Horse. We're also going to be having Charles Soule writing a Porter Engel, the Blood of Bardota comic for Marvel, and Kevin Scott is also going to continue writing the High Republic ongoing series when it relaunches in October. So there you go. There's a lot of High Republic stuff on the horizon. It's kind of a given. We'll probably hear more about it at Celebration in a couple of months. I'm sure they'll have a big panel there telling us a lot more of what's to come. And on the High Republic show, they're very cagey. They had James Waugh, who's one of the story group people, and he was like hinting at what's these other projects that they're not ready to talk about. I hate when I get that people tease stuff, but sometimes it's just so annoying. It's like, yeah, of course they're going to say they have stuff. Why bring it up if they can't actually say what it is? It's like, damn it. Especially with that previous story of me saying just announce this stupid show already so we can just stop saying it's a speculation. Especially if it's shooting in June. That's right around the corner. You're going to have to acknowledge it eventually. What are you waiting for?
Well, here's the thing, Chris, with you just said, so Celebration's on May 26th. So that means if it would be shooting in June, they can go release some title on Celebration and say, hey guys, boom, new live action show shooting in June, scheduled for 2023 or something. I think that's what, if it does play out that way, I think that's how they're going to end up announcing this High Republic show, is making it, a big announcement at Star Wars Celebration. You'll have the Kenobi stuff. You'll also be like, I'm sure they'll mention Mando season 3's progress. They'll mention Ahsoka. They'll mention all these things. Then they'll be like, oh, yeah, guys, we got this bonus show, too. Boom.
Yeah.
That's shooting in June. I think it'll end up being something like that.
Here's the thing, though, because June's literally a week later. I don't think they can keep a brand new series under wrap that's shooting like a couple weeks later. I think if enough of this stuff keeps coming out from these sources, they'll have no choice. They're going to have to just acknowledge it, because there's no way they can keep having leaks out here for a show that's shooting literally in 3 months, 4 months. We'll see. It'd be cool to hold on to the secret that long, but I at least they'll have maybe. I just can't wait for the Celebration to see how many panels they're gonna have, because it's gonna be like, Are they going to do like one big ass panel for all the live action series? Are they going to do one big ass panel for the movies? Are they going to separate them? Like have one panel for Mandoverse, have one panel for Andor, have one panel for the High Republic show? Like there's going to be so much interesting organization stuff coming from that. And what worries me is that we're like 3 months away, basically, and we still haven't even gotten like official tickets on sale yet for the people that like let go of their tickets. Because there's still people like, hey, I sold my ticket from like 2 years ago. How am I going to get a new ticket to go again? Like none of that stuff is like there yet. So I'm like, pandemic is starting to get better, so we should start hearing this stuff soon. So anyway, we got a bunch of High Republic stuff coming out. We'll hear more at Celebration, I'm sure. And I think with that, we are finally through with all this news.
Well, and hey, one more quick thing to throw out there as well for the news. I'm sure, well, I sent it to you guys earlier in the week. So in little video game news, it got reported that here soon on the Nintendo Switch, for anybody that's in Nintendo Switch, Star Wars The Force Unleashed, the original game is finally coming to Switch. So for anybody who has the Switch, check that game out because it's a classic, and I'm sure it'll be fun to play on one of those as well.
Yeah, the only thing with
I
that...
still play it.
Yeah. The only thing with that, bar in mind that this is the Wii port. This isn't even like the Xbox port, so it's going to be pretty rough. From what I've heard, like it doesn't look that great, and it's on hardware that's like 3 generations past the Wii. So take that with a grain of salt and just be prepared. It might not run or look that great. These are basically, they don't like up-res the definition, I believe. They like literally just port it so it just plays. So take with that what you will. This is not like, Knights of the Republic remake that's coming out like in 2 years or whatever. So, but it's still cool that that the access for these games still exists and you can play on your current hardware. That's the main thing, is like game preservation is such a big deal with today's day and age, where we have all these great new games, but a lot of us still like to go back to the good old days of reenacting some nostalgia and having a good time with those memories. So yeah, there you go. So, this would have been an episode on its own to talk about the Book of Boba Fett for like the entire 2 hours, but hey, we got literally, and we rushed through that news too. We could have spent like a good episode on probably each one of those subjects almost. And here's the nature of the beast. We'll probably get nothing next week and the week after and the week after that. It's like, okay, it's nice to space out the news every once in a while, but we talk about what they give us or what we can find. So there you have a lot of rumors. So keep in mind, a lot of that was rumors, not confirmed by Lucasfilm, as I try to give you guys the credit to wherever we're getting that information from. But it's still some interesting things to talk about. As far as for my channel this week, we mentioned it before. I have a couple videos relating to the Book of Boba Fett. I have something on the death of Cad Bane. Is he really dead? I have a little video talking about, hey, what's the significance of that post-credit scene, and some more stuff on the comics. So you can go ahead, check out that content, share this with your buddies, share this with your friends. If they want to get involved, tell them every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern. We'd love to have them join in the conversation, such as The Lowdown Show, Christopher Weber, Scrambled Goose, Chris Forsyth, The Lowdown Show, Aaron Daly. Everybody there, thanks for joining us tonight. What's up with you, Ben? What are you up to these days?
This weekend, mainly just, lifting weights, slowly dieting, lost a couple pounds here and there, so that's good. And then, that's about it. Video gaming as always, getting ready for the Super Bowl. It should be a good game, and hoping we get the Kenobi trailer. I think it's a small chance, but I really hope we do get it this weekend, because by the time everyone's listening to this podcast, they've likely seen it already if we've gotten it. So hopefully we have it by then. And for anybody who would like to chat Star Wars or fitness or, anything in between or sports, you can find me anywhere at Real Ben Maynard on social media.
And Ben?
Actually, it's Milton.
Milton, oh my God! You know what happened? Because my camera turned off, so I'm wondering what the heck is going on.
It's too funny. It's all good. People, we're live. This is what happens. We're live. We always laugh and make fun of each other.
Well, Milton, that means, okay, let me go through that whole spiel again.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, continue.
No, so what I'm doing this weekend, just relaxing. Honestly, it's been one heck of a week with the day job. So normally my normal routine is to work out on Saturday, like I always do, relax, hang out, get ready for the Super Bowl. Hopefully it's a good game. Actually, I'm kind of looking forward to the halftime show because a lot of our like musical idols growing up as
Gonna be
kids.
fire.
Gonna be really, really good. Let's hope. And I'll probably honestly play some video games and just relax this weekend. I have a 3-day weekend, so I'm not working on Monday, so it's kind of nice to get away. But yeah, man, if you guys want to just talk Star Wars with me or just talk sports or fitness, I'm on Twitter at Milton Weber 7, or if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at Milton the number 7 Weber. So again, that's Milton the number 7 Weber on Instagram.
There you go. And you guys can find me on the channel. I'll be talking more about Boba Fett this upcoming week. Trying to pull in some interesting topics for you guys to chat with me on the channel with. You can find me on youtube.com/Starrapter, and on any podcast streaming service, just search Outer Rim Transmissions and you can listen to us on the go. So for Milton, for Ben, for me, Starrapter, aka Chris, that's going to do it for us here. Thanks for watching. And this was Outer Rim Transmission number 45 and transmission.